going on. And that was sort of the reasoning for me reaching out. So JT, especially on the sale, because he handles all of our sales calls still. And so like the conversations he's having with investors, we've noticed sort of shifting over the last little bit. I mean, obviously the really strong real estate market, people kind of struggled through that for different reasons of everyone wants retail but it almost seems like now that the interest rates have gone up and the traditional market is softening, that some investors are having a harder time closing leads, turning leads into deals. And then the other side is flippers are having a harder time moving their properties, right? So yeah, if it's good, if you're okay with it, I'll just kind of ask you the questions, but feel free to, go on whatever tangent you want. And the hope is that you can share advice and tips and thoughts and just anything that might help someone.
I was gonna say, I'll definitely speak to what I'm seeing right now in the marketplace, because I would agree things have definitely changed. And you can tell by the way other investors are doing business, by them pulling back on marketing. I'm sure you guys feel and see that like, oh, well, we're actually not going to be doing this much ad spend. We're actually going to do this instead. So we're not slowing down. We're pedal to the metal.
So what would you say are like the challenges that have or the things that have changed over the last, I don't know, 6 months or so? What have you seen that's changed either in your own business or in the people you're coaching and people you're talking to?
Yeah, I think really what's changed the most is the market has shifted, the market has softened, and sellers aren't quite there yet. They haven't quite came to fruition that their house isn't worth what their neighbor's house sold for 3 or 4 months ago, because that was when the market was really hot.
Yeah.
And now that the market shifted, they're still stuck on that price. And then in the investor world, we know what's going on. We're trying to lead the market down because we know that we don't want to get caught paying too much. And so we're trying to offer 5-10% less on our offers. And naturally, sellers just aren't quite ready for that. And they're not taking those offers like they were when we were able to kind of look at it from a different perspective of, oh, actually the market's probably going to go up 5%. And so we can probably pay a little bit more aggressive. And so really what we're seeing is a lot of sellers who we would have bought from before are kind of holding out. And I don't know how long they're going to hold out. And we're not desperately chasing them. Could our follow-up game improve and maybe, try to get some of those potentially? But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we feel really good about our numbers going in and we're just kind of holding out. And so ultimately for us, our pipeline has slowed because of that, but the deals that we're getting are some of the best deals. I'm seeing a lot more motivation, a lot more situations that weren't really existing 6 months ago. For example, foreclosures. That was a big part of our business back in, a few years ago when we first started, and then it just dried up. Nobody had to worry about foreclosing because the stimulus, government, all of the appreciation, they had equity. So they weren't worried about foreclosing because they could just sell their house and cash that out. But right now, if you've refinanced and your home price dropped, which I've seen it just in my backyard here in Las Vegas, we refinanced at the beginning of this year. And I'm just thinking about some of my neighbors who refinanced and went and bought a pool with that 100,000 of equity. And now their equity is 80,000 down. So those are just a few things that I've noticed and how it's affected our business right now.
Awesome. So maybe just kind of to summarize and see if I got this right, like your lead volume is potentially similar to what it was. The difference is that some of those leads are harder to close because they're not ready enough yet. They're still stuck in like, I want what my neighbor got 6-9 months ago. You in your business are not chasing those as much. You're focusing rather on the ones that are ready. Does that sound right?
Absolutely. That's 100% correct. Yep. We're just offering lower too. If we were offering what we were 6 months ago, we probably would get some of these, but why would we do that when we know the market's going down?
Yeah, that's smart, man. And you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but do you feel like your business overall, volume and revenue is going down as a result, or are you able to get enough out of the the deals you're doing? Like, is your deal volume going down too?
I wouldn't say like revenue wise it is, because we're just being a little bit more selective. And so before we might flip a property and take a slimmer margin, we're not doing that right now. We're only taking like the thicker deals. And so because of that, we don't have to do as many. Quarter number 3, which we're coming to an end on as we do this here, one of our best quarters ever in business. Did the most revenue, did the most amount of deals, and a lot of that was from obviously prior contracts and stuff closing. But right now, the one thing that I have noticed is if we do decide to wholesale it instead of taking it down because it wasn't a juicy enough deal for us, it's likely not a juicy enough deal for another investor either. And so our assignment fees have tightened a little bit, and we anticipated that. Especially in some of our virtual markets. And so, we were doing, deals that were some like record setting deals, 25 to 35, like on average. And those have been more like 12 to 15 as of late. So they've really kind of just shrunk in half, which that affects your bottom line and revenue.
Sure.
Absolutely.
So would if you were talking to another investor that maybe was kind of struggling, would your advice be, and obviously everybody's business is a little bit different, but would your advice be like, don't get hung up on what your wholesaling fees used to be, just know what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. So even if it's tighter, I wonder sometimes if investors get hung up on like how things used to be, like, and I think in any business, but like, I used to be able to make this from every deal and now I can't make that from the deal. And so I got to like turn off my marketing or give up, what do you do what would you say to someone that's kind of thinking that way?
Yeah, well, listen, I wasn't through 2008. Luckily, I guess, depending who you ask, if it's me or my business partner, he was. And so he kind of knew and wish he would have planned differently for that. And so with that being said, we see a huge opportunity. So whose economy are we living in? Are we living in the consumer's economy, or are we living in the investor's economy? And the reason I say that is because if you're in an investor economy, there's a massive opportunity here. And the worst thing in my mind that you could possibly do right now is shut down your marketing, because yes, it might save money on it, but who's still going and marketing and who's going to call you if your ads are not being shown? Nobody. Yeah. So my point is we're still marketing and we're still pushing hard on that because the opportunities are still coming in. We're just running our numbers differently. And by the way, we're getting some of the best deals ever. And it's almost like the competition isn't really there as much as it was when the market was crazy. So that's a huge opportunity for me.
Yeah, interesting, man. That's sort of been the interesting paradox that I've noticed is historically a really strong retail market is actually a harder market for an investor to operate in because there's less motivation to sell your house at a discount if retail is just crushing it, right? So we're actually entering, like you said, we're entering more of an investor economy if you can be smart about how you're working those deals, right?
Yeah.
Do you guys do much with creative financing, or do you typically do? Yeah. How do you work that, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I think there's going to be a lot more opportunity for that. So I'll just make a quick comment because I think this is applicable to what you just said as far as the retail market being hot and then it kind of cooling. We've noticed a lot of sellers calling us from listed properties, people who've been on the market for 30, 45 days who are like, hey, I got another house I'm moving to. I don't want to make another payment and my house isn't selling. So I wanted to mention that quick, but the opportunity becomes people are going to be more receptive to this creative option. And so, for example, if their pain point is they just don't want to pay the mortgage anymore, and that's basically it, they don't need to cash out and use a big amount for a down payment, well, then we can obviously solve that problem and say, hey, you know what? We can take over your mortgage. We can get you enough to move on. Can't buy it for cash at this price, but we can pay you a little bit more because we can creative finance. And so as of lately, we've had a couple who have entertained that. And another one where we just did a short-term like novation. Maybe you've heard the term, maybe you haven't, but it's like a combination of a wholesale and a flip without us buying the property. We just keep the payment in place and then sell it on the retail market.
Gotcha. Yeah, interesting. I agree. And in other conversations I've had, it seems like the more options you have to lock up a deal within reason is going to help it, especially when a market gets a little uncertain like now. That's interesting. That's smart to just pull it down and just absorb the payments, and then you have different ways you can exit that property, right?
For sure. Yeah. And if we were just wholesaling, I wouldn't be as excited to have this conversation. We'll just put it that way. By having these other exit strategies, we're able to capitalize on not only equity, but also larger profits because we're not taking as much risk in terms of taking the property down with cash and get creative with it.
Yeah, awesome. Have you noticed a shift in being able to move your finished flips?
So the finished ones, I would say the ones that are done just lipstick, yes, those are not selling like they were. Like you didn't even really have to flip a property 6 months ago. You could truly just clean it out and put it back on the market, put some lipstick on it and sell it. Right now, the market isn't really buying that. The market wants properties that are a high quality. And so you have to really go above and beyond. And those properties are still selling from what we've seen. The ones that are really nicely remodeled are still selling. The ones that are not so fast. Those are sitting on the market for a little longer.
Gotcha. Any thoughts on how you guys are working through that to get those to move faster, or are you still working on figuring that out?
Yeah. So, typically, depending on our inventory, if we buy a lot of houses, we'll get creative to sell some of them. So, for example, we bought a house. It was a $200,000 house. We actually put $50,000 down with the bank, and we didn't have the capacity to do it. We had 12 other projects going on. And it was just sitting there for 3 months. It was listed and wasn't selling. We're like, okay, well, at this point, we've got to do something. We're getting ready to go remodel it, but we're like, you know what? Let's just see if somebody would want to rent this property, like rent to own it. And so we ended up finding somebody who did $50,000 down and bought it for retail price. So we did a lease option. We got our 50,000 back. We're into it for nothing. We'll collect a $20,000 profit on the back end because we're square. So,
and that just reinforces what you were saying before, right? Is like, if you were just wholesaling, it would be a different conversation, but you're finding a lot of creative ways to enter and exit properties. Not finding, I mean, you know these methods, but you're utilizing them, right?
That's right. Yep.
So if someone let's say someone out there is just wholesaling and they're struggling because that's all they're doing, where would you suggest someone start to try to learn more about what other creative options they should be considering? Any thoughts there?
I would find a savvier investor who does those options, whether it be creative finance, subject to innovate, whatever, right? And I would just see if I can add value to their business. So whether that be just finding them deals. Don't go to somebody and say, hey, how can I add value to your business? Like, and they're an investor, they want deals. And so bring a deal to them. That would be the best preference. And then just say, hey, you know what? This one probably doesn't fit cash criteria. I know you do this. Could we work this deal together? Maybe we can split profits. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, and if you make money on it, that's great. At the end of the day, partner with somebody who does have the tools that you're looking for.
Smart. I like it. Awesome. Any other thoughts or tips on what's working well right now from a marketing perspective or from a turning a lead into a deal perspective?
You got to get your sales game on point. If you have all of the leads in the world, but you don't know how to speak to sellers, or your team doesn't know how to process those leads, you might as well not be spending money on marketing. And I hate to say that because you got to learn by having those leads. But at the end of the day, we've been doing this for 4 years. I feel very good about having the same opportunity as somebody else and about my sales team winning that opportunity because we've done hundreds of deals. And so at the point of lead intake, you've got to have a good process, you've got to have a good follow-up, and you've got to have a good way to present the offer. All of that comes back to sales and how are you talking to those sellers, and are you collecting the right information, and are you presenting the offer in a way where they're going to say yes? Because if they don't say yes, you don't buy any houses. So it's very simple, right? I know there's a lot that goes into it, but that's the bottom line.
Cool. Have you guys made any major changes on your marketing, new channels, new budget allocations, etc.?
We really track our numbers. In fact, I'll be speaking to a group in about an hour all around KPIs. So Key performance indicators. So we watch that very closely, and we haven't changed anything really. I mean, I think we're doing a little bit more direct mail now. I feel like as people start to panic a little bit, they want to pull back on that because it's a more expensive channel. So we're going to start doing more direct mail. We've been doing Facebook ads. We've been doing digital advertising. We've been doing TV now for a year. We haven't lightened up marketing. In fact, we've probably just year over year increased it. As long as it's producing a decent return on investment, we're going to keep doing it.
Cool. I was just going to look at my questions real quick. Again, if you had a student or an investor in front of you that's like, I can't close deals, I got to turn off my marketing, any other advice that you would want to give them that you haven't maybe already talked about?
Yeah, honestly, I would just ask them, what has your marketing yielded you in the past? And if you feel confident about closing the deals that you've spent marketing dollars on in the past, then why wouldn't it work going forward? In fact, I would argue that it should work better going forward, because a lot of other people are probably thinking the same thing you're thinking. I got to cut costs. Well, if you shut off your marketing, you just shut off your business. Because ultimately, if you are in the off-market real estate business, you're really in a marketing business. It just so happens to be the byproduct is houses. And so, I would really, really make sure you have thought that through and make sure that you're not doing that too prematurely, because you don't want to shut your business down. I think right now is the biggest opportunity that we may ever see in our entire lifetime, depending on what happens with potentially the elections and a lot of other things. With the economy, the feds are going to keep increasing interest rates, but I would imagine marketing is going to be the life and the blood of your business. So I would tell them to trust the process and keep on it, keep at it.
Awesome.
But track your numbers. Don't forget to track your numbers, because if you don't track your numbers, now you're spending money blindly, and nobody wants to do that. So you got to know what's working.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I agree. I think that was super well said. So anything else that you would want to add, or is there anything that you would want me to maybe tack onto this for you?
That's a good question. I don't know. What are your thoughts? I mean, I don't necessarily have anything.
I mean, do you want me somewhere in this, if they're interested, do you want me to send them towards your coaching, or is that not the right format to send them that way?
No, I mean, I don't see why not. My goal is to reach more people. And so, if you have your audience watching this, I would absolutely be grateful for that. It's thevirtualmillionaires.com is my website that somebody could check out. All that really is, it's a VSL video, and it doesn't talk advertising specifically like digital ads. It's actually just me kind of behind the scenes talking about how I got started, and that'll give them access to a free training is what that is. But yeah, man, let me know if there's anything I can do as I continue to bring on people. Definitely be thinking about your business and letting people know where they can find you. I'm a little bit reluctant to tell too many people in my backyard market, but at the end of the day, no. In all reality, though, you probably see this, that and I don't know if people give Facebook enough time. Like, they think that they're going to do a campaign and overnight they're going to get deals. Do you see that much where people just quit too prematurely?
Yeah, totally. And we do a lot of work in like the sales process to try to reset that expectation. I think when that happens, it's either that they don't have a stomach for marketing, meaning like spending any money without getting it back right away is kind of hard for them. So they're a little bit risk averse, and so they've got to kind of get through that. I think the other challenge is, especially if your experience is only in, say, direct mail or bandit signs or whatever, and then you switch to digital marketing with Facebook, the variety of leads all of a sudden changes quite a bit too. So like, if someone's calling you off a bandit sign, of course you get tire kickers too, but they're usually a higher motivation, a higher readiness. And on Facebook, you pull people from kind of all ends of this like readiness spectrum. So you get people who are like ready and motivated, and then you get people who are like right in the very beginning process of their journey. And so I think people who give up too soon don't give that time to get that variety. They need to start closing deals soon versus having deals that they nurture through. And then the other thing I see is just the ability to nurture and follow up on a lead. Like, it would shock you, maybe it wouldn't, because you've been around a long time, you talked to a lot of people, like the amount of people who don't do like really any follow-up on their leads. And some businesses can afford to do that because they get enough leads and they're closing enough deals. But especially these smaller ones, when I've dug in with them, it's usually pretty surprising. Like if they call the lead a couple times and nothing happened, then they just forget about it. And I'm like, at least put that person on like a 30-day drip, like at least, call them every 30 days or something. Like you paid for that lead. Don't just give up on it so quickly,
Yeah, 100%, man. I see it all the time, and I even have a person in my program I've been telling to get a CRM for weeks now. It's like, man, if you want to make this like your full-time thing, you have to have more leads, number one, but you also have to follow up with the leads that you have and nurture those things.
So we actually have so the CRM system we use for Silver Street, we're creating basically a version of that we can let our clients have access to because of that issue. Like some of them that don't have it, we're like, look, we'll figure out how to work all that out from a business perspective, but we're like, we want you to be able to follow up on your leads. So, and it's got some marketing automation and stuff in it. That's pretty exciting. And then we're launching something for agents and flippers who are having a hard time moving their properties as just like a really basic market that property on Facebook and Instagram and just generate some leads to see if you can't move that a little bit more quickly, which will help them build their buyers list potentially too. So
nice.
Doing a couple things there to try to help that side of it,
Cool, man. Well, that's awesome. You'll have to let me know when it rolls out so I can take a peek at it if you don't mind.
Yeah, I will for sure.
Going on.
Yeah, I will for sure, and I'll take all your input on it too. What CRM do you guys use?
Yeah, so we use Recsimply.
Okay.
Recsimply.com. I'm not gonna lie, I used Podio for the first couple of years in business, and it was too much, man. It was too at some point I thought the customization would be awesome, and it just got to the point where as we grew, I was hiring a developer, and it just became a nightmare. So Resimply's been awesome. I like it a lot. So.
Yeah, there's something to be said about the simplicity of something versus something super complex that you need a systems administrator and a developer to maintain, right?
100%.
Yeah.
But anyway,
cool.
Man.
Hey, thanks so much, dude. I really appreciate it. Your time, and it's great to catch up as well. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Good to see you as always. Take care.
Yep. All right. Talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.